Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Vani Chastecha avovetecha eshtachave elecha kodshecha beiratecha ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Temple Israel. I'm Rabbi Michael Wolk, here with Cantor Shira Lissick. You fix this, please, the volume. We are happy to spend Shabbat with you this morning, everyone here in our beautiful sanctuary, as well as everybody joining us on StreamSpot. We're happy to observe this holy day with you. Today is an extra happy day as we are celebrating this morning the bar mitzvah of Rupert Pittenger, son of Bobby and Jody Pittenger. So Rupert, I'm going to invite you to come forward with your parents as we start our service with an important presentation. Come on up. So Bobby and Jody, you teach your children to dress impeccably. I've observed that. Today you're going to help Rupert dress as a bar mitzvah, as an adult in the Jewish community, by presenting him with his brand new talit, his brand new prayer shawl. We all, if you look around the room, we all have different talitot, different looking prayer shawls that we pick out, but what they all have in common are the tzitzit, the fringes on the corners of the garments that we wear that remind us of God's mitzvot, of God's expectations of us. Yours, the one that Rupert's about to wear, and hopefully will use for many years, is particularly beautiful, particularly unique. Where did it come from?
It came from Israel.
It came from Israel. Familiar place to you, and you designed it for him. So I'm going to ask you to turn to our sheet on the page, the Talit ceremony, and we say, on this joyous day when we celebrate, Rupert, your transition into Jewish adulthood, we are proud to present you with this Talit, a sacred garment that Jews around the world have worn for generations, an ancient tradition kept alive through you.
Wrapped in your talit, may you feel the loving embrace of your family and friends, your community and your people, past, present, and future.
May you find comfort, joy, and inspiration as it is draped over your shoulders.
May you carry your talit with you wherever your path may lead, a source of light and guidance on life's journey.
And when you gather the tzitzit, may you be reminded of the mitzvot and God's presence in your life, everywhere and always.
Now, Rupert, whenever we do a mitzvah, before we do a mitzvah, we recite a bracha, we recite a blessing that focuses us, remind us we're about to do something that God has asked us to do. So I'm going to ask you to recite the bracha, the blessing for putting on a talit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. And Bobby, if you would unfold the talit and wrap it around Rupert's shoulders. Now the tricky part, you can take it and toss it over your shoulders like that. So. Perfect. And I invite all three of you to recite the Shakari Amidah, the blessing we say on doing something for the first time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh. Rupert, you think we're good to go?
Yes, sir.
You did a good job leading off last night. I think we are good to go. Rupert, you stay up here with us. Bobby and Jody, you can go back to your seats in the congregation. Let me welcome everybody again. And just a few notes on the decorum that we observe here at Temple Israel in the sanctuary. We are a conservative synagogue, and we use Sidor Lev Shalem. This is the prayer book that we use, the smaller red book. The larger red book is the Eitz Chaim Chumash, our printed copy of the Torah that we follow along with when we take the scrolls out of the ark. We ask that all males cover their heads with a kippah, with a yarmulke, while you are here. We also ask or strive to create an atmosphere of Shabbat, an atmosphere of rest that's different from the outside world. So we don't use cell phones or other electronics while we're here in the service. And finally, to create an atmosphere comfortable for everybody during these trying times, as we sit in the congregation, we keep our masks on during services. I know sometimes it's a little challenging, so if you need to, please feel free to step outside and take a breath of fresh air during services. But we very much appreciate everyone's cooperation. We begin with Shacharit, the morning service, page 147, the second paragraph, Shochenad.
Befi Yesharim Titalal Uvdivrei Tzadikim Titbarach Shochenan Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenan Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenan Marom Vekadosh Shemo. בפי שרים תתהלל ובדברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל. וכן חובה כל יצורים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי, עבדך, משיחך.
Page 148, please rise.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו האל המלך. ברכות והודעות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות האדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיית בית ישראל. תגלה בזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויפר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי דקדושה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ויאמרו
Amen. Bottom of page 149.
La 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 ya 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 la 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'en Le'olam va'en La 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 Ya 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 la 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 la
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who forms light while creating darkness, who brings harmony while creating all. May be seated, page 150. While we're davening Shachrit, I'd like to invite Moshe Warren to join us up on the bima and take a seat next to Rupert.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or vorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol hakol yoducha v'kol shavua v'koim u'kadosh Adonai אפס פתחה גולנו לימות המשיח ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים
Page 151, El Adon.
אל אדון על כל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה, גדול וטובו מלא עולם, דת ותבונה סובבים אותו, המתקהה על חיות הקודש ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה, זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים במה רצון קונם. פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה. שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, תרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש.
לאל ששווה מכל המעשים.
מכל המעשים האנושיים. יתברך מושיענו שבח מעשה ידיך והמאורי אור שעשית יפרוך הסלע.
Page 153.
יתברך צורנו מגן וגואלנו בורא קדושים. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים במעביר הרצון קונם, וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה ומברכים ומשבחים, ומפרים מריצים מרצישים וממליכים.
את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור ונורא הקדוש הוא. וכולם
וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנימה קדושה, כולם כחרונים ואומרים בגירה,
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו.
והאופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מן הסמלים הצרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים,
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות.
Amen. You have loved us deeply, Adonai our God, and showed us boundless compassion. Blessed are you who lovingly cares for the people of Israel. Page 154. Ahava Rabbah. Moshe, take it away.
והאר עינינו בתורתך, בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, במצוותיך, ויחד לבבנו לאהבה ורע את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם, לעולם ועד.
Shekoach Moshe. We gather together the four corners of the Talit as we prepare to recite the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאור על ידיך, והיו לטפטפו בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
אדוני אלוהיכם
אמת.
אמת.
ויציב נכון וכם ישב ונאמן.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים, וחיסון נכון מרתו ומונתו לעד קיימת.
ודבריו חיים וקיים לכם לעד. תומי עולמים עלו ותפלים.
אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואימותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואימותינו, יודפנו תשועתנו, פותנו הצילנו מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא
מעולם מגן משה. Yisrael Galtan Bedavid. Loshiv Chabin. Rachod Vadol. Moses, Miriam, and the people of Israel joyfully sang this song to you. Micha Mocha Ba'elim Adonai. Middle of page 158. Please rise.
Hillel היום ברכו מבורך משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עוטף אלה שירה חדשה שיבחו שמך שפתיים יחד כולם מרובים לכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד דור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל ובטחנו יהודה וישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. We turn to page 159 and we begin the Shakari Amidah together out loud.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב ויושיע מוריד הטל מחלקל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים תומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו משפי מרום ככתוב היד נביאך וקרא זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אז בכל רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מן השאים לעומת שרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון. מתי תמלוך בציון. בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד תשכון. יתגדל ותתקדש. בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. והננו תירא מלכותך, כדבר המור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהים מבלש מעולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue praying silently.
יהיו לרצון אמרפי, יהיו לרצון אמרפי, וגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. May the words of my mouth and meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru, ve'imeru, amen.
Page 167, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועמד דברי חירותי במלכותי בחייכון ובמכון ובחית כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויבר ותרומה ויתנשא ויתעזר ויצלח ויצלח שמי קודשה בריחו. לילה מנחה ברכתה ושירתה דשברתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותנו ואותנו זוכי ישראל קודם אבוהון וישמעי ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. We turn to page 168. We rise for the Torah Service, which will be led today by Rupert Pittenger, and I call on Josh Lowensteiner to join us on the bima to open the Ark, page 168.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'ein k'ma'asecha Machu kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai le'amo yiten Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom av harachamim eitiv avirtzoncha et Zion yivneh Chomo Yerushalayim Tivneh Chomo Yerushalayim Ki Vecha Levad Batachnu Melech Elram Venisa Adon Olamim Vayehi bin Soharon, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Ve'afutzu oivecha, Ve'anusu mesanecha mipanecha, Ki mitzion tetze Torah, Ki mitzion tetze Torah, Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
We are the servants of the Holy One, whom we revere, and whose Torah we revere at all times. Not on mortals do we rely, nor on angels do we depend, but on the God of heaven, the God of truth, whose Torah is truth, whose prophets are true, and who abounds in deeds of goodness and truth. In God do we put our trust, unto God's holy, precious name do we offer praise. May it be your will that you open our hearts to your Torah, and that you fulfill the desires of our hearts and the hearts of all your people Israel, for goodness, for life, and for peace. And let us say, Amen. I invite Bobby and Jody and Rupert's grandmother, Beverly Hamilton, to join us on the bima. Rupert leads us Be'ana Rachetz, page 170.
Be'ana Rachetz, Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anai Martush Bechan. Be'ana Rachetz, Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anai Martush Bechan, Yehera Ava Kadamach, Detiftach Libi Be'oraita, ותשלימי שאלין דליבי, וליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטוב ולחיים ולשלום. Amen.
Guys, why don't you come up, step forward. The Torah scrolls that we keep in our ark, our Torah, represents our most treasured possessions. It represents everything that we want to pass on to our children, the wisdom, the morals, the knowledge, all of the lessons that we want to pass on to Rupert and those we love begin with the lessons of the Torah. I'm going to take the Torah scroll from the ark and pass it past each of you as you pass the Torah, Lador Vador, from generation to generation, to Rupert as he accepts it, accepts that responsibility on himself. Page 171.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Adonai iti uneromema Shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai Hagdulah V'Hagvura V'Tiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki Cho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Ki Cho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha Dehamid Na'aseh Lechol Rosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu.
You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Temple Israel. It's good to have our regulars joining us here in the congregation and on StreamSpot, and also to welcome the friends and family of Rupert Pittenger celebrating his bar mitzvah this morning. I'm Rabbi Michael Wolk. If we haven't met before, together with my colleague, Cantor Shira Lissick. We are going to switch books over to our Chumash, to the larger red books, the Bibles that contain the printed copy of the Torah. Each Shabbat during the year, we take the Torah scrolls from the Ark, the scrolls that contain the 5 books of Moses. The books are divided into sections called Parshiot, and we chant one parasha each Shabbat. When we conclude the book of Dvarim of Deuteronomy, which we are approaching the end of, we will go right back to the beginning and start Genesis, Bereshit, all over again, so that our cycle of telling our sacred stories never stops. Today, our Torah portion is called Ki Teitzei, towards the end of the book of Dvarim, and Ki Teitzei can be found in the Chumash on page 1123, page 1123. If you're following along at home in a different book, the reading today will start with Dvarim, Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 8. So for much of this week, I have found myself unable to look away from the pictures on the other side of the world, the pictures coming out of Afghanistan. Of course, the scenes of Afghans chasing and then falling off of airplanes in desperate bids to escape are heartbreaking and leave us with many questions about a war that lasted for 20 years. But I keep coming back the pictures of the Taliban themselves. Pictures of men who look like they came right out of fighting the Crusades, men from another time. But instead of brandishing swords, they brandish the modern weapons of war, capable of killing so many people in a short amount of time. I'm drawn to these pictures, I think, because it's still hard for me to believe that these people exist. But there's also part of me that looks at them, that looks at people who claim to be practicing a deep religious faith and wants to try to find some kind of connection. Religious faith, the belief in God, is a very powerful force. The actions that we take based on a belief in God, for us as Jews called mitzvot, are even more powerful because they translate that faith into practice. And when I see religious people of any faith, I try to find that commonality. Yet instead of respect, when I look at the people in those pictures, looking at people for whom the words extremist and fanatic are not strong enough, I find myself horrified and fearful for the welfare of people who are now at their mercy. The resurgence of the Taliban has reminded me of an important truth, that religious faith and religious practice can have two sides. They can be used to elevate our lives from something mundane into something holy, but they can also be used to hurt others in the most severe of ways. The Taliban are on the other side of the world, and we desperately hope they stay there. But our Torah portion today is the source of a mitzvah, of a commandment, that can and has either been used to sanctify and to heal a painful moment, or to lash out and to hurt somebody else in anger. Dvarim chapter 24 is the origin of the Jewish practice governing divorce. The opening verse describes a case where a husband is displeased with his wife. In order to end their marriage, he writes a sefer kritut, or a bill of divorcement, and hands it to his wife. From this verse developed the Jewish practice of a husband giving a get, a document of divorce, to his wife as the Jewish way of ending a marriage. The practice is still in effect today, and neither man nor woman could be married by a conservative or an Orthodox rabbi unless a get had been given to end a previous marriage. Describing this very standard Jewish practice, Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, a contemporary Orthodox rabbi, wrote an article, How a Good Law Was Hijacked and Turned into an Instrument of Oppression. He explains this law originally in the context of Dvarim, of Deuteronomy's emphasis on human rights, as a means of protecting women from being arbitrarily thrown out of their homes by angry husbands, by involving them in a legal process. The idea of protecting the women who had no means of self-support at that time was further enshrined in Jewish practice with the invention of the ketubah in the early 1st century, a document that so many of us have proudly hanging on the walls of our homes, a document which at the time guaranteed that a woman leaving a marriage would leave that marriage with enough money to support herself. Yet, according to Rabbi Greenberg, this law, which was written with the best of intentions, went wrong when the rabbis interpreted the description from the Torah, he shall write to her a bill of divorce, as meaning that only he can write a get, and that he must do it of his own free will. Because of this interpretation that shaped the practice of this law, countless ex-husbands have held their former wives hostage as agunot, or chained wives. The couples are legally separated by American civil law, but still bound to each other by Jewish law and are unable to start new lives. Some men have done this to be cruel, while others have used it to extort their wives in divorce proceedings or even afterwards. The Orthodox world has been slow to respond to the plight of agunot and generally has done little to end these sham marriages. Although there are some Orthodox rabbis who will not allow known get refusers into their synagogues, and their videos on YouTube of throwing them out of the synagogue. Conservative rabbis are challenged because we both feel that we are bound by traditional Jewish law, and at the same time see the harm that this law can cause. I tend to believe that just as we use ritual to mark happy moments like marriage, so we should also use Jewish ritual to guide us through darker moments. One of my prouder achievements as a rabbi was the time I worked with an agunah, a chained woman, to present her case to a Beit Din, to a religious court, and have her previous marriage nullified, which ended 15 years of the ex-husband's control over her life. Now, while the result was satisfying, the whole case should never have happened. It happened because he chose, at a low moment in his life, when his marriage ended, to use religion as another one of his weapons against a person he used to love. Then he made that same decision over and over again for 15 years. Rabbi Greenberg ends his history of Jewish divorce with this impassioned statement: "The God who, in the word of Psalms, does justice for the oppressed, weeps while his Torah, originally intended for the improvement of women's lives, is hijacked by recalcitrant husbands enabled by important rabbis and turned into an instrument of oppression and impoverishment of women and children who deserve better." I discussed this distinctly Jewish issue, starting from our Torah portion, in the context of religious extremists in the news, not in any way to compare any segment of the Jewish world to the Taliban, but rather as a cautionary tale. We open the Torah each and every week, and we turn to a Torah portion like Ki Tetzei, a portion that contains over 70 different mitzvot, 70 different commandments. Some of them, like the cases of capital punishment that we might read about, have long passed from practice in any part of the Jewish world. But many of them also remain in our lives in some form. The case of the divorce is a grim moment to talk about, but because it is a hard moment, it allows us to understand how we use religion, how we use our faith, and how we use the practice that comes from that religion. When we look at a mitzvah that regulates our interactions with other people, that tells us how to interact with other people, we are challenged to ask, will this mitzvah, will this commandment, will following this mitzvah be used to make our lives and the lives of the people around us holier? Will it give comfort during a difficult time and joy during a happy time? Will it bring people closer to God, or will we just be using it to hurt other people? We are challenged by that question every time we read one of the mitzvot in Parshat Ki Tetzei. Now we turn to the Ki Tetzei, beginning page 1123, verse 8. Dvarim chapter 23, verse 8. The Torah reading is divided into 7 aliyot, 7 readings. Each one of them will have somebody coming up to the podium at the foot of the bima and blessing the Torah. Some of them will be Rupert's friends and family. Our first Torah reader will be Steve Powell, and for the first aliyah, for the Kohen aliyah, we call on Tom Bach. Thought it was you.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן, הכל הגדולים ניתנו כבוד לתורה יעמוד. יוריה בן פלטיאל הכהן ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו ואתם מביאים בין אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tita'ev Adomi ki akikahu. Lo tita'ev Mitzri ki ger hayita be'artso. Banim asher yivaladu lahem. Dor shlishi yavo lahem. Bighal Adonai. Ki tetzei machane al oyevecha. V'nishmarta mikol davar ra. Ki yevecha ish asher lo yeh tahor mikre laila v'yatsa el michutz lamachane lo yavo el toch hamachane v'haya lifnot erev yirkatz b'mayim Ukvo hashemesh yavo el kutu kamachaneh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach tam. We continue with the second Aliyah, Dvarim, chapter 23, verse 13, page 1124. We call on Steve Moore.
Yaman.
Eliyahu.
Shalom Eliyahu ben Yitzchak.
Halevi.
Halevi.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'yat yelecha mikus l'machaneh v'yatzata shama chut v'yat yelecha al azenecha v'haya b'shivtecha chut v'kafarta v'ba v'shavta v'kisita et se'atecha Ki Adonai Elohecha matchalek bekerev machanecha lahatzilcha latet oyevecha lefanecha v'haya machanecha kadosh v'lo yirevecha ervat davar v'shav me'acharecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach, Steve. We continue with the third Aliyah, Dvarim, chapter 23, verse 16, page 1124. Our reader will be Cantor Elias Rushbarg, and we call on Shana Van Glish.
Amot Shena Tzila Shlishi.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tazgir eved el Adonav asher yenatzel leilecha me'im Adonav. Imecha yeshev b'kirbecha v'makom asher yivchar be'echad she'arecha b'tov lo tonenu. Lo tiyeh kadesh mibnot Yisrael v'lo yiyeh kadesh mibnei Yisrael. Lo tavi etnan zona umechir kelev beit Adonai Elohecha lechol neder ki toavat Adonai Elohecha gam shnehem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shana Yasher kochech on your Aliyah. Happy to have you, call you up to the Torah today in honor of the fact that you will be leaving shortly for Israel for a year for Young Judea's year course, which is really very exciting. And what inspired you to take a year to go to Israel?
I'm just very interested in learning about the culture and immersifying myself there.
I agree with that 100%. What are you looking forward to the most at this point?
Probably trying all the food.
Food is great. We can talk about shawarma places. We can talk about sushi places. They have everything is great. All the food is great there. But we're very excited for you and happy to bless you in honor of making a pilgrimage to the land of Israel. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah v'Yavarech et Shena Tzila bat David v'Devorah Alta hayom l'chvod hamakom l'chvod haTorah v'l'chvod haShabbat Yishmera HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'alota levaker be'eretz Yisrael v'yatzileha mikol tzara v'tzuka mikol nega u'machala v'yishlach baracha v'haslacha b'chol ma'aseh yadeha be'eretz HaKodesh im kol Yisrael acheha v'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Shana Van Glish, who has come for an aliyah with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and this Shabbat. May God protect Shana as she is about to fulfill the mitzvah of visiting, of learning, of studying in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. We pray that our and God's blessings be with you as you journey the land where our ancestors thrived and where our brothers and sisters continue to thrive as they rebuild and revitalize the Holy Land. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu deliver you from all trouble and distress, bringing blessing and success to all your worthy endeavors together with our fellow Jews everywhere. And let us say, Amen. We say, Tzeidchem l'shalom, may you go in peace. Uboachem l'shalom, may you come back in peace, unless you decide to stay there. Would that be a good result? No, they're shaking their heads. That's not a good result. Well, then go in peace and come in peace and have a great year, Shana.
Thank you.
Mazel tov. We continue with the fourth aliyah, Dvarim chapter 23, verse 20, page 1125. Our reader and our aliyah for this aliyah is Aaron Rushvarg.
Yamod Aaron ben Hachazan Eliyahu v'Leah Rivka Riviv.
I got this. Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chavanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten ha'Torah. Lo tashik le'akika neshek chesef neshek oher neshek kol davar asher yishach lelakwi tashik ulakika lo tashik v'ma'an yivarechecha Adonai Elohecha b'kol mishlach yadecha ha'aretz asher ata v'shama le'rishtah ki תדעו נדר לאדוני אלוהיך לא תאחר לשמו כי דבר שית וסדר אדוני אלוהיך מעמך והיה בך כעת וכי תקדע לנדור לא יהיה בך כעת מוצא שפתיך תשמור ועשית כאשר נדעת לאדוני אלוהיך נדבר אשר דברת בפיך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Aaron Yasher Koach. I think we talked about this on Zoom last year, but last year was the 17th. This year is the 18th anniversary of your bar mitzvah. And just like last year, I share that you and I have in common as Cantor's kids that our fathers taught us for our b'nai mitzvah. You share that with Cantor as well. And I think your father, I hope, appreciates that you continue to use those skills and how much you treasure the skills of participating in shul life and reading Torah. What do you remember about your bar mitzvah? What's something that you really enjoyed that day?
Well, to be honest, in my own 18 years, I had a bar mitzvah party where I used to live with my family. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm living in a group home with 5 of my other roommates here in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you tell them about your bar mitzvah and about that you were coming today to read Torah in honor of your bar mitzvah anniversary. Well, Aaron, thank you for laning for us today, and we hope that you continue to do it for many years to come, and I think your dad wants a hug.
Simen tavu,
mazel tavu, mazel tavu, simen tavu, mazel tavu, mazel tavu, simen tavu, mazel tavu, simen tavu, Yehelanu, 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 Ulechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael, Yehelanu. Tov, Aaron, Mazel Tov. We continue with the fifth Aliyah, Dvarim, chapter 23, verse 25, page 1127. Our reader is Chana Kaunitz, and for this Aliyah, we call on Mike Vanglish.
Ya'amod Michal Ezer ben Meir Lieb Chamishi
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bochar bonu mikol halamim v'anosan lanu es toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
אמן, כי תבוא בחרם רעך ואכלת ענבים כנפשך, צהבך ואל כלך לא תיתן, כי תבוא בקמת רעך וכתבת מלילות בידיך, וחרמש לא תניף על קמת רעך, כי כך איש אישה ובעלה והיה, אם לא ימצא חן בעיניו, כי מצא וערוות דבר וכתב לה ספר כריתות ונתן בידיה, ושילחה מביתו ויצא מביתו והלכה והייתה לאיש אחר, ושנא האיש האחרון וכתב לה ספר כריתות ונתן בידיה ושילחה מביתו, או כי ימות האיש האחרון אשר לקחה לו לאישה, לא יוכל בעלה הראשון אשר שלחה לשוב לקחתה להיות לו לאישה, אחרי אשר הוטמעה, כי תועבה היא לפני אדוני, ולא תחטיא את הארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nosan lanu toras emes v'chayei olam nota b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach, Mike. We continue with the sixth Aliyah, Dvarim chapter 24, verse 5. And for this Aliyah, we call on Chana Kaunitz.
Tamud Chana bat Emmanuel v'Leah Shishi
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד,
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
אמן, כי כך איש אישה חדשה ולא יצא בצבא ולא יעבור עליו לכל דבר נקי, יהיה אדוני יהיה לביתו שנה אחת, ושימח את אשתו אשר לקח, לא יחבור חיים ורחב, כי נפש הוא חובל, ימצא איש גונב נפש מאחיו מבני ישראל, ויתעמר בו ומחרו, ומת הגנב ההוא, ויראת הרע מקרבך, הישמר בנגע הצרת, לשמור מאוד ולעשות ככל אשר יורו אתכם הכהנים הלוויים, כאשר ציוויתם תשמרו לעשות, זכור את אשר עשה אדוני אלוהיך למרים בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Chana Yasher Kochech, and we welcome Chana and Franklin Kaunitz back to Charlotte, back to Temple Israel. It was nice to see you walking up and down the halls, talking to the educators yesterday. You were right at home 2 days ago, whenever it was, you were right at home. I know people are really happy and thrilled to see you back here, and welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure.
Great.
We continue with the 7th Aliyah, Dvarim chapter 24, verse 10, page 1129. Our reader will be this very familiar-looking guy, Rupert Pittenger, and for this Aliyah, we call on Rupert's parents, Jody and Bobby Pittenger.
Yamdu Mibera bat Avram v'Sara beruvin beran Avraham v'Sara shvi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
כי תשב רעך משת מאומה, לא תבוא אל ביתו לעבוד עבודתו, בחוץ תעמוד, והאיש אשר אתה נושא בו יוציא אליך את העבוד החוצה, ואם איש עני לא תשכב בעבודתו, השב תשיב לו את העבוד כבוא השמש ושכב בשמתו, וברכך ולך תהיה צדקה לפני אדוני אלוהיך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata baruch b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Jody and Bobby, Yasher Koach and Mazel Tov. Must be great to see your oldest son, your Bechor, up here as a bar mitzvah, doing you proud. We pause for a moment to pray on behalf of those who are ill, those in our lives in need of physical and spiritual healing. Today, in our Mibera Prayer, we think of Chana Miriam bat Rivka, Rav Yaakov Chai ben Hadassah, Shimon ben Yaakov Mordechai ben Naomi, Devorah bat Sarah, Hershel Yehoshua ben Malka, Perel bat Rezel, Dov ben Ita, Shmuel Yaakov ben Kalia be'Ari, Devorah Rachel, Malka bat Sarah, Leib Israel ben Sipora, Aliza Meira bat Leah, Tzivya bat Chana, Yudit bat Miriam, Fegla bat Chasha, Arya ben Malka, Talman Pinchas ben Moshe ve'Eta, Sarah Chaim bat Shlomo, Sarah bat Chaya, Chanoch Yitzchak ben Sarah, Sarah bat Shendel, Binyamin Noah, Eber Yitzchak, Yosef ben Miriam, Shiri Ruth Batya bat Yaakov Yerushalayim, Cyril ben Moshe Kalman, Miriam Tzivya bat Aharon v'Tova, Raphael ben Perel, Chaim Yitzchak ben Gittel Fegel, Leah bat Ruth, Dawson Julia, Elijah Avila, Jordana Faith Ram, Mabel Tannenbaum, Kathy Berlin, Sandra Harold, Don Roth, Philip LaMantia, Tamara Rivera, Irene Janet Locker, Marty Shefflin, Linda Castellanos, Thomas Clark, David Shmuel ben Chaim Beryl, Miriam Daniela bat Areli Vimoshe, Phyllis Keller, Gabrielle Zago, Marcia Bracha bat Daba. If you're praying for someone else today, I invite you to rise in your place and to recite the name when I look at you. Steve? Rabbi? Len? ve'et kol hacholim, and all those who suffer illness. Cantor leads us in the Mibera Prayer for healing.
Mibera avotenu mikol leavotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Please rise for the Khatsukotish.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ימרו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, תפאר ותרומה ויראה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה וימרו.
Amen. You may be seated. We turn ahead to page 1135, Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 17 for the Maftir Aliyah. And Rupert, this is going to be your first Aliyah to the Torah, your first time called to the Torah. Your parents symbolically passed the Torah to you just a few moments ago, and now by blessing the Torah, by thanking God for giving us, you, the Torah, you symbolize your acceptance of that responsibility. So for the Maftir Aliyah, we call on Rupert Pittenger.
Yamod habachur habar mitzvah Shlomo ben Reuven v'Meira Maftir chazak.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Mevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Zachor asher asa lecha Amalek Baderech b'techem mitzrayim asher karcha baderech vayezanef becha kol nechesh alim acharecha ve'ata ayev ve'agea ve'lo yareh Elohim ve'haya v'haniach Adonai Elohecha Lecha mikol oivecha misaviv ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala lerishta timchet zecher amalek mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temeh v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Rupert Yasher Koach, great job. We now lift and dress the Torah for the honor of Hagba and Galila. It looks like we're going to call on David Rosenthal and Rabbi Tracy Clears. Please rise.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל ביד משה.
May be seated. Each week, in addition to chanting the Torah in Hebrew with the trope and the cantillation, someone delivers a Dvar Torah, a word of Torah, explaining the meaning of the Torah portion to everybody here, their personal meaning from it. Usually it's the rabbi who delivers the Dvar Torah, but this Shabbat, I am happy to share the pulpit with Rupert Pittenger to teach us about his Torah portion of Ki Tetzei.
Thank you, Rabbi Wolf. Shabbat Shalom. The year was 1940. The German army invaded the Netherlands while British and French troops entered Belgium to engage them in response. On the 14th of May, the German army marched through the Ardennes forest in France and went swiftly to the English Channel in order to flank the Allied forces. The Allies attempted counterattacks but were unsuccessful. They battled at the English Channel and along the coast, resulting many thousands of casualties. The Belgian army was decimated. The French army suffered irreparable losses. For a reason that still causes one to be nonplussed, even today, a German commander issued a halt order in order for their forces to consolidate. With 3 days' break of time, England organized an invasion to rescue almost their entire troops, more than 330,000 of their finest young men. This was the Battle of Dunkirk, and the British Expeditionary Force alone had just lost 68,000 soldiers. Most of the world saw Dunkirk as a complete and utter failure for the Allies. Winston Churchill did not. He saw the massive accomplishments of the British Air Force during the battle, protecting their hundreds of thousands of troops, while they escaped and gained confidence that these bombers could protect their island in case of Nazi invasion. And without this rescue mission, they would surely have lost the war. This week's Parsha, the portion of Scripture read by Jewish communities all across the globe each week, is from the portion of Ki Tetzei, which means when you go out. But the third word of the Parsha is La Milchama, which is to war. So the main theme of the Parsha is about when you go out to war. Ki Tetzei is primarily a series of mitzvahs, which is translated as laws or commandments on how to live the right way. There is a total of 74 of them this week, which is 12% of all these 613 mitzvahs. These are just focused in this week's reading. Here are a number of them. Build guardrails on the roofs of our houses so that no one falls down. If you see a beautiful woman at war, you have to give her the opportunity to mourn for her family before you can marry her. You must kill the kidnappers among you, pay your wages on time, don't go out to war for a year if you've just gotten married, and don't take things people use to make food when you're collecting debt. Take care of the widow and orphan, and remember Amalek. And then there are others, like don't put someone to death by the testimony of a close family member, how to charge and not charge interest on a loan. Fill your words and your vows quickly. Do what you say you will do. And then there are employee rights, like being able to eat as many grapes as you want, but you can't take any home. But how are all these seemingly random mitzvahs related to each other? What do they all have to do with the words Ki Tetzei La Milchama, when you go out to war? Life is like a series of battles. Milchama, the word for war, shares the same root word for lechem, which means bread. Every time we sit down to eat, we are in a battle. Do we eat the food at the table for our bodily enjoyment, or do we eat the food at the table for the purposes of gaining energy to serve your Creator? Whenever I have a decision to make during my daily life, my father for years has told me the following. Rupert, my son, do you want to be an animal today, or do you want to be an angel today? It is your choice that God gave you to live each day. In Judaism, our sages teach that we have a yetzer tov, a good inclination, and a yetzer hara, a bad inclination. Every day, both the good and bad are at war inside of us. All of the mitzvahs, commandments, and the parsha of this week's reading outline the choices we have in life to be an animal or an angel, to listen to our yetzer tov or yetzer hara. Do we get sloppy and cut corners to save money when constructing a house, or do we build it the right way and build guardrails? Do we ignore those who are widowed and poor in our community and only focus on ourselves, or do we take the time to help those in need? Do we rush to judge someone even if their family member has accused them of something terrible, or do we hear them out and try to understand the situation before we make a rash decision? Are we careless with our words and overpromise what we can actually do for someone, or do we do exactly what we say we will do? All of these questions in this week's parsha are a series of battles. It is a daily battle. Some might say war. During this day of my bar mitzvah, I choose to be a happy warrior, which was the title in one of Winston Churchill's old biographies. I commit to going through the battles of life with a smile on my face. Even though we all aren't always stranded on a physical island, sometimes we are on a spiritual island. In concluding, I would like to read to you the final words of Winston Churchill after the loss of thousands of his troops after the Battle of Dunkirk. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. At this time, I would like to say thank you to some very special people who have helped me along the way. First of all, thank you to my wonderful parents who have been guiding me along the way in this journey called life. I don't know what to say, but I'm so grateful you're my Ima and Abba. There is a midrash that says, before we are born, our souls choose our parents before we enter the womb. I'm so glad I chose you as my parents, and as an aside, to all the kids out there, can't blame your parents for any of your mistakes in life, because as the midrash says, we choose them ourselves. I would like to thank my grandparents, the Honorable Robert and Suzanne Pittenger, who are Piddo and Sister to me. They have helped instill in me a love of history, politics, and culture. I'd also like to thank my very special grandmother, Mimi, who can even make doing house chores fun. In addition, along the way, I've had the greatest Hebrew teachers anyone could hope or wish for. Morhana Konitz, who first started teaching me to read, speak, and write Hebrew at age 3, and to whom I owe so much. To Rabbi Kornskold, thank you for running a top-notch Hebrew school. Rabbi Ezring, who helped welcome our family to Temple Israel and to the Jewish people. Thank you, Alan Jonathan, for bringing all of us kids together. Rabbi Wolk. Thank you for teaching me about editing and speech writing. You have an amazing collection of historical cantorial albums. Cantor Lasik, thank you for teaching me how to chant my Torah and half Torah. My voice cracked today. It's not her fault. I would also like to thank my Aunt Amber, who flew here from Tupelo, Mississippi, to be with us today. Lastly, my siblings. David, I hope we continue to collect Legos and play with them together for many, many years. Joshua, you have a wonderful smile and always keep me smiling as well. Warren, I don't know how you beat me at so many games all the time. It's not really fair. Leah, Hannah, and Emma, you are the greatest sisters in the world. Avi, you are a sweet little baby brother with the greatest laugh. I hope one day you thank me for all of those diapers of yours I changed. Imaba, thank you again for the wonderful life you have given me. I love you. I have the best family in the world, both my immediate family and also my Temple Israel family. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Rupert, on delivering a Torah, a word of Torah that only you could have written. We continue with the Haftarah, the section from the prophets. For Kitei Tzei. We turn to page 1138. The Haftarah begins, the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 1, page 1138 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash. Take it away, Rupert.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim, v'ratzah b'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Abocher b'Torah ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. רני הקרא לא ילדה פצחי, רינה ותהלי לא חלה, כי רבים בני שוממה, מבני ואולה אמר אדוני, הרחיבי מקום ההולך, בריאות משכנותייך יטו, אל תחסוכי האריכי מטרייך, ותדותייך חזקי, ימין ושמאל תפרוטי וזרעך, גויים יירש, וערים נשמות יושיבו. אל תראי כי לא תבושי, ואל תקומי כי לא תחפירי, כי בושה אלומייך תשכחי, וחרפת אמנותייך לא תזכרי עוד. כי בוא עלייך עושייך, אדוני צבאות שמו, וגואלך קדוש ישראל, אלוהי כל הארץ יקרא. כי כאישה עזובה ועצובה רוח, כרך אדוני ואשת נעורים, כי תימאס אמר אלוהיך, ברגע קטון עזבתיך, וברחמים גדולים עקבתך, בשצף קצף הסתרתי פניי רגע ממך, ובחסד עולם ריחמתיך, אמר גואלך אדוני, כי מנוח זו לי, אשר נשבעתי, מעבור מנוח עוד על הארץ, כן נשבעתי, מקצוף עלייך ומגור בך, כי ההרים ימושו והגבעות תמותנה, וחסדי מאיתך לא ימוש, וברית שלומי לא תמות, אמר מרחמך אדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו הם וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי המלך גדול נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובה נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו, ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסאו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכפה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
In Yashva Koach, Rupert, Bobby and Jody, would you join your son up on the bima? Come on up and join us. Stand up there. Don't worry, this won't be too embarrassing.
Just a little.
Stand just a little bit. And stand next to your son. Rupert, Mazel Tov on celebrating your bar mitzvah this morning. We're happy to celebrate with you and with your parents, Bobby and Jody, and with your siblings, David, Joshua, Warren, Leah, Hannah, Emma, and Avi. I don't usually need a list. And with all of your family and friends who are here in our sanctuary and joining us on live stream. We also wish you a big Yashar Koach on leading us in services last night and today on chanting Torah and Haftarah and on teaching us your own words of Torah. You and I both know that we started working on a Dvar Torah together, then you ripped it up and said, I want to say something else. And you modeled exactly what a Dvar Torah is, combining something, an interest of yours, a passion for history, with the words of our Torah and teaching a lesson that only you are capable of teaching. And that's exactly what a Dvar Torah is, and I am very proud of you and impressed with you for doing that. I spoke to your parents and asked them to tell me a little bit about you. First of all, I should tell you that the biggest flaw they find in you is that sometimes your desk gets a little bit messy. Other than that, not a whole lot. Rupert, you are the firstborn. In Hebrew, the Bechor. And the word Bechor doesn't just mean biologically the first child in the family. It comes with special responsibilities, which is good because your parents think that your name, your character, is synonymous with taking responsibility. Whether it's doing your work on time, getting anywhere on time, you are the prompt one in the family, and taking care of your younger siblings, like those diapers of Avi's that you mentioned before. You are on top of things, and you are frequently the one who gets all of them buckled into the car. I only deal with 2 kids. That's an achievement. Kudos on that. Just one of the wonderful examples of Rupert's character and his caring for his family was the time that Rupert chose to drop out of a golf tournament in order to serve as a caddy for David in that very same tournament, letting David enjoy golf, letting David have the success, even though you, and I know how much you love golf, were willing to step aside. Your Dvar Torah, as I mentioned, was a beautiful combination of your own personal interest with insights on our Torah. And I can say with no hesitation that I have never heard a Bar Mitzvah Dvar Torah, or probably one from a rabbi, that opened with a description of the Battle of Dunkirk and concluded with the words of Winston Churchill's most famous speech. But this should not be a surprise for anyone who knows you, Rupert. First of all, you have what your parents describe as a very dry British sense of humor, so Winston Churchill seems like a good place for you to turn for inspiration. More importantly, however, you are a tireless reader and a tireless student. Your father remembers that as early as 2 years old, you would, very respectfully, of course, wake him up early in the morning to read to you from books like the Jewish collection of bedtime stories. Well, since then, you've moved from the Jewish collection of bedtime stories like the fisherman who found a pearl, helped because he celebrated Shabbat. You've moved from those stories to completing Tolstoy's War and Peace and the complete works of William Shakespeare. Which was your favorite?
Probably Henry VIII.
Henry VIII. Interesting character, to say the least. I don't even know how to respond to that, to be honest. Well, this is an admirable quality for all people reading and studying. It's especially true as a Jewish person. We are the people of the book because we value the study of our sacred books like the Torah, like the Talmud, and their many commentaries. You are already a student of Torah, and in our time together, you shared with me insights of the Yalkut Me'am Lo'ez, a Torah commentary from the 1700s that your family enjoys studying on Shabbat. Well, I wanted to share with you this morning one of the teachings of the Talmud in Masechet Kiddushin and Tractate Kiddushin, where the rabbis have a discussion about the value of study, specifically of Torah study, but true for all study as well. And they teach Talmud mevi lidei ma'aseh. Talmud, in this case study, is great not as an independent value, not as something that stands by itself, but because it leads to action, because it inspires us to action. Our learning, be it in school, be it in Jewish settings, be it with your parents, with your family, with your friends, is most successful when it influences the way that you act. Rupert, as you grow in the years following your bar mitzvah, may you continue to challenge yourself, continue to push yourself to learn more, and to use that learning to become what we would call a person of midot, a person of the best qualities, a good person and a humble person to go with your achievements. Now, Rupert, I'd also like to share some words with your entire family, all of the Pittingers here, because you, like the Israelites, whom Moses addressed in the Torah portion, are on the verge of starting your lives in Israel when you take your next step toward making Aliyah in just a week. I don't often get to talk to a bar mitzvah family leaving for Israel permanently, semi-permanently, in a week. This morning I was glancing at the beginning of Daniel Gordis's History of Israel, and he talked about the first Zionist Congress in 1897. And I was very struck by his words that for the first time in millennia, the Jews who gathered together with Churchill were taking Jewish history, the fate of the Jewish people, into their own hands. And that's exactly what all of you are doing by choosing to make your lives, your Jewish lives, and your general lives in the Jewish state, in the Jewish homeland. My first advice to you, of course, what Shana said, the food is great. Go out, try everything you can, no shortage of good kosher food in Israel. But my next piece of advice is something a little bit more serious. You shared with me, Jody, that your first landing spot in Israel is going to be in the German colony, a neighborhood in Jerusalem close to Emek Rephaim. How many people have been to Emek Rephaim? It's a great street in Israel filled with lots of those restaurants. Again, it's a popular street, and the neighborhood, the German colony, is a neighborhood that's very popular with Americans who come to Israel, whether to visit for the year as rabbinical students or as anything else, or for Anglos who move to Israel. It's easy when we're in Israel to look for the things that are familiar, for the things that remind us of our old home. But the blessing of being in Israel is that you are actually in some place completely different. And as you make your way in Israel, be it in Emek Rephaim, be it in Caesarea, be it wherever you are, to immerse yourself in the culture of Israel that surrounds you. And probably most importantly, Rupert mentioned he's been doing since he was 3, together with Morachana, learn Hebrew. Learn how to communicate with the people around you in their own language. Hebrew is this incredible language that we share as Jews. It links us to our earliest texts, to our history, to our traditions contained in the Torah. It gives us access to those texts in their original. We understand Jewish history so much more when we read it through Hebrew. But it also truly makes you part of Israel, the place where the Jewish people are taking the fate of the Jewish people into their own hands, where they are writing the future of now the largest Jewish community in the world. I'm more than a little jealous of this opportunity, this challenge that all of you are taking on. I know that you are going to be missed in Temple Israel. So many people have commented over the last few weeks that they can't believe that you are leaving and going to Israel. But we know that we will see you again here in Temple Israel, and we hope that we'll have the opportunity to visit you and to see you in your new home in the Jewish Holy Land. So Rupert, we wish you a mazal tov on celebrating your bar mitzvah today, and a good luck on this incredible journey that you are about to set off on. We are proud of you for your accomplishments today, and we are proud of everything that you, together with your family, will accomplish here in Charlotte and in the land of Israel. Now Cantor Lissick will bless you with the Berkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing, leading into Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov.
We'll sing together Kein Yehi Ratzon. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha vichuneka, ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon. May God bless you and protect you. May God show you kindness and be gracious unto you. May God show you favor and grant you peace and grant you peace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon. Seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, seman tov. Did we do the candy? Mazel tov.
If you have candy, now's the time.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, yehelanu, 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 ulechol Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Rupert, and to the entire Pittenger family. You guys can sit down for a moment. Rupert, you're not done yet, but you can sit down. We turn back to the Sidurim, to page 177, and I would like to call to the Bima Joshua Pittenger, Beverly Hamilton, and Amber McHenry. On page 177, I invite everyone to please rise. Joshua leads us in a prayer for our country, the United States of America.
Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, its officers, and officials, who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwells in our land. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with companionship, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all people to dwell in friendship and freedom, speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not live up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen.
Yasher Koach, Joshua. Now we call on Rupert's grandmother, Beverly Hamilton, to lead us in the prayer for the state of Israel, page 178.
Avinu Shabbat Shamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisers with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend the Holy Land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Blast the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Yasher Koach and Mazel Tov. Now we call on Rupert's Aunt Amber McHenry to lead us responsibly in the prayer for peace, middle of page 178.
May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
The nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. To conclude these prayers, I referenced before the conclusion of the war in Afghanistan. Of course, we continue to send our gratitude to all members of the United States Armed Forces who served in Afghanistan and to the families of those who lost loved ones in Afghanistan. And we thank them for their service, keeping us safe from the beginning of the war, preventing terrorists who would launch attacks from that country, and for seeking to build a better life for Afghanistans. No matter how it began, how it was fought, and how it ended, we express our gratitude to the Americans who served there. We continue on page 181 with the Ashrei. Rupert leads us responsively.
Ashrei Yoshvei V'techa, Odi Hallelujah, Selah.
Ashrei Am Shekach Lo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Eloham.
Tehillah LeDavid, Avram Imcha Elohai HaMelech, V'Avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
V'chol Yom Avarcheka, V'Alav Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Hula Meod, V'Ligdulato Ein Cheker.
Dor L'dor Shavach Ma'asecha, U'Gvurotecha Yagidu.
Hadar Kevod Hodecha, V'Divrei Nimchotecha Asicha.
V'Zuz Nerotecha Yomeru, Gdulatcha Sasrena.
Zecher Rabtucha Yabiu, V'Tiktatcha Yeranenu.
Anun Barachum Adonai, Erech HaPayim U'Tal Chaser.
Tov Adonai Lako, V'Rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yoduch Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'Chasitecha Yevarchucha.
Kevod Malchutcha Yomeru, Uguratecha Yedaberu.
Leoti Elimnei Ha'adam Gvurotav, V'chol Hadar Malchuto.
Malchutcha Malchut Kol Amim, Umemshaltecha V'chol Dor Vador.
Tomech Adonai L'chol HaNoflim, V'zokech L'chol HaGufim.
Enecho Lecha Yesaberu, Ve'ata Noten Lahem Et Ochlam Beito.
Poteach Et Yadecha, U'maspi L'chol Chayratzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'chol Dorachav, V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai L'chol Korav, L'chol Asher Yikre'u V'emet.
V'ton Yerav Yaseh, Ve'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai Kol Ohavav, V'kol Hashayim Yashvim.
Tehillat Adonai Yiraber Pi, V'yivarech Kol Basar Shem Kocho Le'olam Va'ed. V'anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata V'olam. Hallelujah.
Page 183, we rise for the conclusion of the Torah service. We call on the Simon family to join us on the bima and open the ark.
Hallelujah, Et Shem Adonai, Ki Nizgav Shemo V'yah.
Odo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren le'amo, tehillah lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kevod shemo yishtachavu Adonai behadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai alamayim al kavod hirim, Adonai alamayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayar פיתם כמו עגל לבנון וסריון כמו בנרמים. כל אדוני חוצב לבוטש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש. כל אדוני יכולה לעלות, ויחשוף יערות ובהיכלו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום ובנוחו יאמר.
Page 184.
I have given you a precious inheritance. Do not forsake my teaching. It is a tree of life for those who grasp it, and all who hold on to it are blessed. Its ways are pleasant, and all its paths are peace. Turn us toward you, Adonai, and we will return to you. Make our days seem fresh as they once were. Et chaim hi lama chazikim ba vetom cheha meushar deracheha darchei noam bechol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu
Ashakach, to Bernie and to Steve for serving as our gabbis up on the bima, and to Mike Eisner for serving as the field gabbai. We continue with the Musaf service, beginning with the Khatsukotish, middle of page 184.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ויומי בחיי זכו בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולם יומיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרום ויתנשא ויתעזר ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לעילם מנחה ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה זמירן בעלמה וימרו
Amen. On page 185, Rupert together with Cantor Lissick lead us in the beginning of the Musaf Amidah.
Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagedol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasedim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot, Umevi Gual Livnei V'Nehem, L'Ma'an Shemo V'Ahava, Melech Ozer Fukeru Moshiu Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Metim Atavra Lehoshia Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Olim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Pal Gevuro Umido Melach Melach Memir Umechayeh Umatmiach Yeshua V'ne'emanata Lehachayot Metim Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hametim.
Naritzecha v'nakdishcha kesotziach Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech kol haaretz kevodo, kevodo malei olam, משאר טוב שואלים זה לזה, האם מקום כבודו לעומתם, ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני, ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויכול עמם יחדים שמו, ערב הבוקר בכל יום תמיד. המים באהבה שמה אומרים, שמה ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמה ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, ברחמיו שנית, לעיני כל חי, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, ברחמיו שנית, לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם, לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Amen. Continue praying silently.
shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Alleluia. 2, 3, 4. May the one who brings peace down, bring peace down. May the one that brings peace down, bring peace down. May the one brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Be Romar. Oh, say shalom. Be Romar. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Alleluia.
Page 203, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועמד יברח חילוצי ומלכמכותי בחייכנו ומרון וברית רוב בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לא מעומיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתברך בתרומה מן הסי ויתזר ויצלח ויצלח שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן מעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלצון ובאותון תוכו ישראל קודם אבוהון וישמעי ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרב מן שמעי וחיים אלוהינו וכל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Page 205, we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה השמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. אין עוד הם מלכנו אפס ולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל והארץ מתחתנו אינו רק נקבל חרני לרמי המדבר כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי תמלוך בכבוד ככתוב בתורתך ארונה ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
May be seated. We turn to page 207. This week we mark the yortzites of Paul Deugen, Stan Gray, Willie Kaplan, Sophie Edelstein, Gavriel Mezahav, June Karlofsky, Michael Malkin, Hazel Flash, Sheila Sissy Gottlieb, Martin Silver, Louis Seitlin, Joseph Besnoy, Maria Pilar Fernandez Zapico, Pauline Yale, George Kuliner, Ezzy Isidore Cinco, Jeanette Davis Diamond, Georgiana Ripner, Ethel Abrams, Harry Fogel, Peter Matthews, Pinchas Boxer, Harold Jacoby, Sherman Levine, Tessie Nagel, Rose Goldman, Lillian Collar, Blanche Halley, and Donald reporter. We also extend condolences to Sam and Nancy Bernstein for the passing earlier this week of Sam's father, Martin Bernstein. Sam will be concluding the week of Shiva this Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow at the Temple Israel Zoom Minyan at 5:30 p.m. You can access it through the Temple Israel live stream page. Page 207. Invite those in mourning or marking a yortzeit to rise and join me in the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'yalmad divera kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam olamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran bialma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May be seated. Rupert, would you and your parents come join us up on the bima again? You can bring Avi if you want. Bring anyone else if you'd like to. Join us on Cantor's side. And I'd like to call on Tom Bach to join us on the bima representing the Temple Israel Board of Trustees. Tom, you come over here.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. Rupert Shlomo, what a wonderful job. Well done. You set a high bar for your siblings, for sure. Please accept this gift bag from your Temple Israel family. Lots of goodies in here. Actually, so many that I have to read it. I was trying to memorize it, but just couldn't. So there's a Kiddush cup from the women of Temple Israel, a Havdalah candle from the Temple Israel Youth Group, a logo-insulated beverage cup from Hebrew High, an Etz Chaim traveling edition with a personal book plate from the Men's Club, an I Am Jewish book from your Temple Israel Board of Trustees, and a beautiful Hebrew and English calligraphy certificate from your Temple Israel clergy. When you use these gifts in the years to come, may you recall the love and pride of your family and friends at Temple Israel on this joyous occasion. Now I have to do some announcements, and I was told to do it in very quick fashion, so we may speed through this. Okay? Mazel Tov to Rupert Pittenger for leading us so confidently in services this morning. To your parents, Bobby and Jody Pittenger. To your brothers and sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and friends. We look forward to your participation in services for many years to come. Welcome to all our congregants and guests. Thank you, Rabbi Wolk and Cantor Lissick, for leading us in services, and Sean Sivert for your audiovisual support. Thank you also to our Gabbai, our greeters, Joshua and Warren Pittenger, and our candy distributors, Joshua, Warren, David, and Leah Pittenger. This morning's sweet Shabbat treat is being sponsored by Bobby and Jody Pittenger in honor of their son Rupert's bar mitzvah. Thank you. Please join us next week to celebrate the bar mitzvah of Jonas Fisher, son of Jonathan and Julie Fisher. Jonas will lead us in Kabbalat Shabbat services on Friday evening, August 27th, and in Shabbat morning services on Saturday morning, August 28th. Selichot services will be next Saturday, August 28th, beginning at 8:30 p.m., with a study session followed by Havdalah and Selichot services at 9 p.m., and for those attending in person, a dessert reception at 10 p.m. Temple Israel Religious School enrollment and annual renewals are occurring now. Thank you all to all who have renewed. If you haven't done so, register and renew this week, please. Details are online. Hebrew High for all rising 8th through 12th graders is now open for registration. Please visit Hebrew High's website online. Men's Club will host a meet, greet, and eat on Sunday, August 29th at 11:30 to 2 p.m. Sign up at info@templeisraelmen.com by August 25th. Questions to Men's Club President Josh Lowensteiner, sitting right there waving at me furiously. And if it makes it easier for you to decide, then you should know that I will be there along with my father George. We will meet, we will greet, and mostly we will eat. Please RSVP in person for high holiday services or drive by for Matzor. We are also seeking greeters for Shabbat and high holiday services. Should you be interested in greeting or sponsoring sweet treats, please call Karen Turk or sign up online. The Rose Room gift shop is open on Tuesdays from 9:30 a.m. to 11:15 with Stephanie Meadow, on Wednesdays from 9:15 to 11:15 with Wendy Queskin, and on Fridays from 10:15 to noon with Cindy McManus, and also by appointment and 24/7 online. The gift shop is also seeking volunteers who have a few hours a week. Inquiries to Stephanie Meadow. Lastly, after Shabbat, please see our website, Kol Israel, and your weekly email for complete information about in-person services, the Stream Spot box, the Zoom link for Daily Minyan, and upcoming events, including youth events with Alan Jonathan. We offer many opportunities for services, learning, community, and friendship. Please join. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you, Tom. It's a good look for you up here.
Thank you. So enjoyed being up here.
Nice.
Should I give this to?
Right, you can give it to them, please.
Awesome.
Give it to Rupert. Take those two. And now call on Jody and Bobby to share a few words.
Not much, just a couple of quick thank yous who haven't been mentioned. Well, a few has, but my parents, Robert and Suzanne Pittenger, thank you so much for being here and for instilling our family with a love of the Jewish people, a love for the land of Israel, and for introducing me to Shimon Peres way back in 97 or 98. That was a special thing, so thank you. And I want to thank Richard and Carol Pearsall, who are here from Myers Park Baptist. Thank you for being here. It sure does mean a lot. And Mitch and Tonda Rifkin, who we actually attended our very first Passover meal, Pesach meal, with the Rifkins. What a lovely time. And Rupert was probably 3 months old at the time. I'm not sure if you've seen him since, but he's grown a little bit. But thank you to our Temple Israel family. We're so grateful for you. You guys have taken us in and made us feel like family, and we love you guys. We love Temple Israel. We love our family here, so thank you so much. And Rupert, we're very, very proud of you. Very proud of you. And David, next year is your bar mitzvah. So you're already signed up and working on it, and we'll look forward to seeing you do a great job here as well. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.
Mazel Tov. We conclude our service this morning with Ein Keloheinu, Adon Olam, and Kiddush, and then invite everybody to come outside and get a Shabbat treat. We do request, if you are staying to schmooze and to eat, to do it outside under the portico, outside the front door, or in our new courtyard. Page 204, Ein Keloheinu. I'd like to invite any members of Rupert's TIRS B'nai Mitzvah class to join us up on the bima. Page 204. What a reunion.
Adonenu, mi kemokenu, mi kemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shetiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha Torah
Page 211. Anyone? Young and bar bar mitzvah, come on up and join us. Adon Olam, page 211. Come on up. We need the help.
Thank you to our awesome bar mitzvah class. Yay. And now for Adon Olam. Which Adon Olam? Adon Olam. Adon Olam, share. Oh, we'll do Adon Olam. Okay, so go right here. I hear. Okay.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem bo Yitzir Nira, Le'nasa, B'Hepsako, Azay Melech Shemot Nikra Adon Olam, Le'harei Kivlot Tachol, Le'vado Yimloch Nara Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hove, V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem bo Yitzir Nira, Le'nasa, B'Hepsako, Azay Melech Shemot Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tochad li B'Yetzara Adon Olam, V'hu Nitzi, Umanos li, Menakosi V'yom Nekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem bo Yitzir Nira, Le'nasa, B'Hepsako, Azay Melech Shemot Nikra Adon Olam, B'yado Akid Ruchi, B'yetisham B'yayira Adon Olam, B'yim Ruchi Geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira Adon Olam.
Please rise for Kiddush. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת,
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית
עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
על כן ברך אדוני המשפט ויקדשהו, סברים רבנן ורבנן ורבותיי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov, Rupert.
Mazel Tov, Shabbat Shalom. Wow, you guys are just like amazing. Thank you so much.